Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is when you're watching this. Today I'm going to teach you about Photoshop. It's a really cool program that does lots of neat stuff. I have the icon on my taskbar down here. You'll have it as one of the icons on the left side of your desktop. So I'm going to hit my icon, and you'll do the same over here. You'll double click your icon to open the program. It takes a minute or two because it's a big program and there's a lot to load. So let's sit and be patient for a moment. Alrighty, here we go. This is called Photoshop, and it has a lot of different components that I'll introduce to you, and you'll start learning how to do some projects with this today. First of all, we have our menus up here. We're familiar with menus. We've looked at those on lots of other programs before, and these are pretty standard menus. File, well, the file edit's standard at least. The rest of these are pretty specific to Photoshop. So we'll make use of these quite often, and I'll talk to you more about those in just a moment. Just know that those are called menus. This right here is called my options bar, and you're going to see as I select different tools over here, this is my tools panel. As I select different tools over here, this will change. There will be different options up here depending on what tool I have selected. So I'm going to click on a different tool here and let you see how things change up there, because there are different things that need to be set for each tool that you select. So you'll notice each time I select a new tool, this options bar changes. So that's going to look different depending on which tool you have. And once again, we'll look more specifically at the options bar later as we get to some of the tools and some of the things that we'll need to change up there. Just know for now, again, that this is called the options bar, and this is called your tools panel. Over here, we have what's called our layers panel, which is this. And once we start working on a picture, you'll see some things pop up here in the layers panel. And I'm going to add another window over here to see the history. So I'm going to go right here to the window menu, and I'm going to choose the history panel. And if ever this gets closed out by accident, close it. Then you can go right back here to the window menu and open it back up. And the history is going to show me all the different steps that I have taken with my image, all the editing that I have done to it, and it'll be helpful for going back if we want to change something, and I'll talk to you more specifically about that again as we get to open a picture and start doing some stuff with it. At the bottom of our layers panel are some different icons. These are just quick step icons for things that you do often, and again we'll get to these in a little bit, but just be familiar that they are there and understand that we will be using those icons for different projects. Okay, those are pretty much the basics of the Photoshop desktop that you need to understand. Once again, menus, options bar, tool panel, history panel, layers panel. And you will take a quiz over those things. You'll need to know what their names are so that you can find them quickly and easily as you're going through some of the Photoshop projects. When we look at the packet or when I give you instructions and say go to your tools panel, you'll need to know that that's where you go for that. Okay, let's see. And don't show this message again. I don't know why that always pops up when I'm doing these recordings, but hopefully we just got rid of it for the rest of this recording at least. So the way that I open a picture is to go right here to the File menu, and I need to choose Open. Do not choose Open As. Do not choose any of these other options. I just want the word Open. And it's going to take me to a dialog box. And this dialog box is asking me basically where's the stuff that you want to open. Where's the picture you want to open. I'm going to go to my desktop, and I'm going to go to the resources folder. Let's find the resources folder. It's in here somewhere. I have a lot of stuff on my desktop, you can see, and that's not the best way to organize, but it's just how I roll, so we go with it. Okay, the resources folder is somewhere here on my desktop, I know. Let me see. La-ti-da. Where? Oh, there it is. Okay. Resources. Now, in the resources folder, remember we go to Sealy. And for this class, we're going to Photo. And you'll see in here a folder called Photoshop Layers Lessons Source Photos. This is where we're going to get the pictures for the different Photoshop projects that we're going to do. So I'm going to start there. I'm going to start with Chapter 1. And I'm just going to grab, in fact, I'll just grab any picture. I'm going to grab a picture of the couple. And the way that I'm going to increase the size of this is on my keyboard. I'm going to hold down the Control key, which is the CTRL, which is in the bottom left corner, and there's also one on the right. You can use either one of them. Hold that down, and I'm going to hit the plus key on my keyboard. And if I keep doing that, it'll keep resizing this and making it bigger and bigger. If I went too far, I need to go back down. I hit the minus, or I can hit the Control 0, and it'll make it exactly the size that fits my screen. Now you'll see that this image is a little pixelated, and that's because it's a low resolution image. That's okay. We're not going to worry about that right now. I'm just making it big enough so that I can work on it and see better. Now in my Tools panel, right here, I have what's called my Move tool. And that's basically my home base. After I finish using any tool, I always need to go back to my Move tool, because a lot of things won't work unless my Move tool is selected. And sometimes if I forget to go back to my Move tool, I'm going to accidentally make marks or something on my photo that I don't want, and I'm going to have to go back and undo it, and that just gets to be a little bit of a pain. So it's just much easier to train yourself to always go back to the Move tool when you're finished using any of these tools. For now, I want to come over here and look at my layers panel. Remember, I said that once we have a photo open, we'll start seeing things pop up in here. My layers panel shows me the different layers that are in my photo. Right now, this one is locked, and the way that I unlock a photo, a layer, is to double click on it and then click OK. And all that does is tell it that I want to unlock it so that I can work on this. And you'll see right here in my history, the things that I have done are starting to pop up. I've opened the photo, and it shows me the name of the photo that I'm working on. And so far, I have just unlocked that layer and made a layer out of it that I can work on. So those are the things that are popping up in my history. I can stretch this down. As I keep going, you're going to see different steps pop up in here as I work on my picture. Now, I'm going to demonstrate to you why we use layers in Photoshop. And the way I'm going to do that is by taking my brush tool, which is right here, and I'm going to draw on my photo. Before I do that real quickly, I just want to point out something to you. These tools don't have names labeled on them. And if you want to know what they're called, you simply hover over the tool with your cursor. And hover means to just sit on top of it with your cursor without clicking. And it usually takes about a second. And then the name will pop up so you can see what it is. And notice, please, that some of the tools have this little triangle in the bottom right corner. That means if you click on it and hold down, there are different things that that tool can do as well. So any of the tools that have that little triangle, had to think of the shape that I was looking at, triangle in the bottom right corner, it means that there's a different option on that tool that you can use. Most of the time we're going to be using the tools as they are here, but just know that there are other options that you may need to use. Okay, once again, I'm going back to my brush tool. Now, I'm going to draw on this photo, and in my options bar up here, you can see that I can change the size of my brush right here by clicking and dragging this, or I can type in a number here directly, and I can change the hardness of it, which means the edge will either be soft like this or it'll be hard like this. And so I'm going to make my hardness 100%. I'm going to set it to, 52 is way too big. I'm going to drag that back down, and you'll see how my shape changes sizes on the picture, and that's how you're going to resize your brush right there in the options panel. Now, there is another way on the keyboard that I can do it. It's a quick shortcut, and that's what I usually do instead of going up here to my options panel. I find it much quicker and easier to hold down the Control key and hit the I'm sorry, actually you don't even have to hold down the Control key. I'm sorry. You hit the bracket key, which is just above the enter key. If you, it's the second row of keys, actually the third row, because your F1, F10, 12, blah, blah, blah is the top. And then your top row is your numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. And then the next row is the QWERTY. And at the end of that row, you see 2 bracket keys. And the left bracket key is going to make my size of my brush smaller. The right bracket key is going to make my brush bigger, so you can see what I'm doing there. So I'm going to go ahead and use my bracket key and make my brush about that size. And I'm just going to paint on here and give him a beard. He's got a blonde beard and mustache and a goatee. Fix him up real good. I'm going to give her, well, we give her a goatee too. So we're going to just draw on there a little bit. If I want to change the color that I'm using to draw, then I go right here. This is my color palette, and I click on that one time, and then I can click anywhere in here to change the color, or I can actually type in numbers here to this R, G, and B. That stands for red, green, and blue, and they're called RGB numbers. And so you can actually type in the exact numbers for the color you want, or you can click in this box. You can also drag down this little bar right here to get different colors and different shades. So you can pick what color you want. If you want pure white, pure black is 000. That's going to give you pure black. Pure white is going to be 255, 255, and 255. You guessed it. So 000 is pure black, so I'm going to use 000, and I'm going to say OK to select that, and I can draw on here with black now because that's the color that I've chosen. So now I've decided I don't really like this. See, in my history, you can see all the stuff that I've done, all these different, every time I make a stroke on this picture with my brush, it pops up another brush tool in the history to show me that I have done that. So I want to erase this. Handy little eraser tool right here in my tool panel. So I'm going to go over and select that. Same thing up here. I have the option to change the size of it by using this little slider, or I can use the bracket key on my keyboard. So I'm going to make the eraser just a little bit smaller, and I'm going to erase these marks that I've made. Oh my goodness, what in the world's happening? Houston, we have a problem. I've erased the marks that I've made, but I made a mess on my picture. We have a problem here because I can't fix that. I can't get that stuff back. Or can I? Actually, the magic of the history panel lets me go back up here and click on that step, and it goes all the way back. It takes away all of the stuff that I've done underneath where I clicked, so I can go back to my original photo. That's very handy if you want to erase an entire step or an entire series of steps. Now here is another way that I can fix that. I go here in my layers panel, and instead of working directly on my original photo, I'm going to create a new layer in my layers panel by clicking on this little icon, and it puts what is basically a transparent layer on top of my photo. And I can see that it's transparent because it has those little squares, gray and white squares behind it. That means that this is a transparent layer on top of my original photo. Now, if I want to see the transparent layer by itself and turn off my original photo, I hit this little eye right here, and that turns off that layer. It doesn't get rid of it, it just turns it off temporarily. And when I want to see it again, I hit that eye to turn it back on. So when I turn that off, all I can see is my transparent layer right here, and again the gray and white squares show me that I'm looking at a transparent layer. So I'm going to turn my original picture back on. If I am here on the original layer and I make my marks with the brush tool and I try to erase, remember that I'm erasing the original picture as well as the marks that I've made. However, if I go right here and click to select my new layer, my transparent layer that I just created, and I know that it's selected because it's in blue. See how it highlights it in blue when I select that layer? So I know that that's the layer I've selected, so that's the only layer that I'm working on. Now, if I go in here and draw and give him a mustache and a goatee, and give her a goatee, and then I decide, I don't like that. Instead of having to go all the way back up in my history panel, I can simply go to the eraser tool and I decide, I'm going to get rid of that. But instead of erasing it off of my original picture, I'm erasing it off of this transparent layer. Maybe I don't want to get rid of everything. Maybe I want to keep a mustache on him, but I just want to get rid of the goatees. Okay, I can erase off of that layer without damaging my original photo. So that's why we use layers in Photoshop. Now, that's the basics of what you need to know about Photoshop and how to get started. You're going to start a new project after this, and it's called the Surf project, and the packet is going to be on the table. So as soon as you finish this tutorial, go ahead and close it out. And you're going to go to the resources folder after you open Photoshop. Remember, you'll go to the resources folder and you'll click open or file open. You'll navigate to the resources folder. In that Sealy and in photo and in the layers lessons source photos, you're going to find all these chapter photos or chapter folders, and you're going to go to the chapter 1 folder, and here are the pictures that you need for that project. In fact, for all of your layers lessons projects. Now, if you want to see what the actual pictures are, then you're going to click right here on the view menu, and you can tell it to show you large or medium icons, and it'll show you the pictures themselves. So the ones that you're going to need for the Surf project are all of these right here. You can actually open more than one photo at a time by clicking on the photo and holding down the control key and clicking the other photos that you want. And once you've got them all selected, then you hit open, and it's going to open all 3 of them at one time. And actually, I've got 4 photos open right now. Let me go back to my move tool, and I can pull these down and show you. You can see all the different pictures that I have open at the same time. And Photoshop is really cool like that. It lets me open a whole lot of different pictures all at one time. So I can work on combining things, which is called a composite, and that's the first thing that you're going to work on, is creating a composite of these 3 surf photos and putting a logo on it. And the instructions are in a packet, once again, that you're going to pick up off of the desk or off the table. And it's very important that you read and follow the directions exactly as they're printed. Photoshop can be a very fussy program if you don't follow the directions exactly. So it's critical that you keep your place. I would suggest using your finger to keep your place on the packet as you look up and back to the computer and back to your paper, back and forth between the paper and your computer. It's going to be easy to lose your place. So again, I suggest that you use your finger to keep your place in the packet so you know where you are, because if you skip even one little step, the whole rest of the project can be messed up. So very, very important to read and follow the directions exactly as they are in the packet, and don't skip anything at all. Okay, that's it for now. And you're going to go ahead and close this out, and then you're going to go to the table and pick up the packet and get started on your Surf project.